Is this audio or just is it video?
It's video.
It's a video.
It's video. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Hi, thanks for joining me for another edition of Chronic Conversations. We have a special part of our double feature for Friday the 13th is when you'll be watching this, so I'm very excited. Thank you. Special shout out to my co-host, beautiful wife Jen back there, doing her thing and running things, getting things started for us. I appreciate you. First, let me give the shout out to Not Bad Creations. We appreciate all your support. If you need to get anything made of paracord at all, they're very creative, from watches to get backs to harnesses for animals. You name it, you can think of it, they can make it for you. Thompson's Personal Training and Nutrition. Check him out on Facebook. And a special shout out to Cigar Times on Market Street. We'll be talking to them at some point in time too as a possible future sponsor. So thank them. And now let's get to our guest. Guys, thank you for joining me. This is
Thank you for having
combined.
us.
They are Tennessee Macabre, which so we were shooting the other day, and I had the best brain fart ever and pronounced you guys as Tennessee Macabre more than once, which is crazy because I know Macabre and yeah, and
We
thank
had
God.
some fun with the name too.
Yeah, so you know, I
Tennessee
don't,
Macabre.
Yeah.
Macabre, yeah,
Maccabee.
Maccabee. I was like, and then he
Maccabee.
looks at me, he goes, Macabre. I'm like, oh God, then it's just like it all rushes in. Okay, thank you very much. But the guys from Tennessee Macabre, if y'all want to individually introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about what you do.
You want to go first?
No, you go
Okay.
first.
Okay. My name is Duke Ralston. I play the Grim Reaper. I am co-host of Tennessee Macabre. We started producing. Well, I also do radio and do some musical shows. Neil, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Neil Privet, and I'm co-host of Tennessee Macabre. I play Deke Rivers. I also play Red Demon
Yes.
and Sin Pantalonius in Mortimer,
Yes.
among other roles.
Yes.
And
So how long you guys been doing this?
2017.
2016.
2016.
What brought you together?
We
Well, we were in the same jail cell.
yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
The best stories either start out we were in war together or we was in this jail cell one time.
We would have started sooner, but it took a long time to get the mortar out from between them bricks with that spoon.
Yeah.
We Duke worked for Shock Theater, and I was going to some Shock Theater shows because we were both fans.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting into Dark Princess Theater together, which is no longer a thing.
I think it is a thing, but we haven't been part
We
of it.
kind of
Right.
bailed on it.
Yeah.
And then we just slowly kind of got our own show together, and it's taken off from there. It was October 2016.
October of 2016, and we went to our local radio station, the River 104.9, and I talked. Travis owns it. I talked to Travis, and I told him about my idea, and this was probably in the summer, and he didn't say anything, and so I thought, well, that's a wash, and I turned around and walked out. And then they had me on the radio station to promote something at the Princess Theater. It had nothing to do with Tennessee Macabre. And he turned around and looked at me and he said, "Are you going to put some shows on or not?" And I'm like, "Sure," And we decided we would do 3 shows.
Yeah.
And
Filmed the first ones at the Princess Theater.
film the
South
first,
Pittsburgh.
yep, film the first 3 at the Princess Theater in South Pittsburgh. And we didn't really have any firm plans. We hoped to do some more, but we didn't really have any firm plans. We've been going ever since.
Right. That's the best stories though, because there's always that catalyst, because it's something I feel like most people have sitting around and their creative juices kind of stirring, but there's no form to it yet. And as soon as somebody says, "Hey, why are y'all not?" and you're just like, "Well, duh."
Yeah, we just kind of fed off each other.
Yeah.
Our sound woman special effects engineer Tracy and us, we all do the shows. We kind of jump around writing the scripts.
Yeah.
But one thing we're really proud of is that we're on local television, and that's where Horror Host began, on local television. And we are on the internet too, but we still or on WPG television.
What are all the places they can find you?
Wow.
I mean,
Ask
I
Bill,
know it may be a laundry list, but what
It
is
is a laundry
we're
list.
doing pretty well.
It is a laundry list. So let's start off with, I always want to start off with our local sponsor, the River 104.9. We are on, we're actually a radio show. So we're on air on FM 104.9. Then they have cable access. And so the show is broadcast locally on SBEC Connect 4. And then they have a Roku channel, ITV Chattanooga, and you go to ITV Chattanooga and you have to click on the river.
Okay.
And the show will be on at 11 o'clock tonight.
Okay, great.
So you can catch it there. Then also on Saturday nights, Otherworld TV. That is
posted as well.
Yeah, that is will be 11 o'clock Eastern time, midnight Central. We're on Central.
Okay.
Then something that we're really excited about. We started working with TinglerTelevision.com back in June. And
that rings a bell.
Tingler Television is based in Newport, Tennessee, and it's named after the movie The Tingler.
Okay.
That's probably why it rings a bell. But we're on Tingler Television every Thursday night at 8 o'clock.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Tingler and the sister station, Reactor 9, they actually have Hollywood connections. So we have been since 2016, we have been running public domain films.
Yeah.
And if you go look on the internet, all the horror hosts, we kind of all run the same bucket of films. Well, because of Tingler's Hollywood access,
be able to get.
Yeah, we got some top shelf.
we're running some really cool stuff.
But I want to give credit where credit due. Some of that stuff too that everybody shows. Some of that stuff's so fascinating to me, and it's it brings me back to that thing. But it's also exciting to know that there's bigger and better coming along too. So you get that variety.
And I hesitate to use bigger and better because it's different.
Yeah,
we're running locally on ITV Chattanooga tonight. We're running The Brain That Wouldn't Die. Tell him about the brain. He's better at telling the history.
Yes, tell us about The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
That's one of the greatest public domain movies ever.
Yes.
Have you seen The Brain That Wouldn't Die?
No, I want to say no, but
if you would know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
What can you say about The Brain That Wouldn't Die? It is about a doctor Dr. Cordner, whose he and his wife or fiance get into a car accident. She's decapitated. He rolls her head up in his jacket. It takes off sprinting for his lab, hooks her head up to cables and everything, and spends the rest of the movie trying to find the hottest body he can find to put her head on. And
she's less than enthusiastic.
And she's not down for it. At the same time, there's this mutant monstrosity this experiment going awry that's locked in the closet. It's beating on the closet. It forms a socket connection with the head, and she's always affectionately referred to as Jan in the Pan. And
nice.
And these two collude, tried to overthrow the doctor. It was filmed in '59. It didn't come out till '62. The producer, at some point, in either this film or a couple films later, he's borrowing money from the mafia, and he can't pay it back, and so he commits suicide. And the film finally came out. I saw it when I was 10 years old. I went to a friend's house, and White Zombie was coming on. And I was like, White Zombie, Bela Lugosi. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we settled down about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. A little black and white television is better. This is 1980 or 81. And all of a sudden, The Brain That Wouldn't Die came on. And we're like, what is this? I'm like, okay, let's watch it. And by the end of the movie, we're like, it's gory, it's horrifying, it's sleazy. There's a stripper fight in there.
One of the best pieces of music.
The soundtrack. The Web. And I'm trying to think of the artist. The theme song is called The Web. and it's this jazzy, just
Definitely
sexy.
have to write
See,
that one
now,
down
you
to watch.
have got to see The Brain That Would Die.
You had me at stripper.
Yeah.
Okay, there
Actually, had me at
is
decapitated.
there is
I didn't want to say that out loud.
there is life before The Brain That Wouldn't Die and life after The Brain That Wouldn't Die. You will never be the same.
I've heard the same thing about what was it? I can't remember anymore. Where they got sewn together, the caterpillar,
Oh, the human centipede.
Human centipede.
Oh my god.
So my friend knew I was a big horror fan and that I really liked just unique, obscure things. So he was like, "You've got to see this. This is right up your alley."
It's something else. Yeah.
It both was and wasn't. Well, it was up somebody's alley, not mine, but
It was
several
something
people's.
else.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but that's another one that there's a before you saw it and
Oh yeah,
after you
yeah.
saw it
Well,
type of thing.
it's one of The Brain That Wouldn't Die's little illegitimate children. Probably.
Yes.
you could
I didn't
say.
even watch it all the way through the first time. I just fast
Oh.
forwarded, thinking that it was going to be that something. I was like, this
That-
can't be what this
The
is
human,
really about.
the Human Centipede 1 is Mary Poppins compared to Human Centipede 2. The Human
I
Centipede
didn't
2
even see too.
is sick.
So
Yeah.
It's like it's like yeah.
yeah.
I was like it was crazy.
The Brain
Yeah.
That
Oh, that is nice.
The Brain That
Yes, we're
Wouldn't
looking
Die.
at a picture of the.
Yeah, that's your homework
pretty awesome.
assignment. Brain That Wouldn't Die.
And it's on at 11 o'clock tonight on ITV Chattanooga.
Well, what would you say of all the stuff you've played so far? Before we get into some of the stuff that's coming in on the way, what is probably the most favorite for each of you that you've played so far?
Wow. That's a tough question.
It is
Brain
a
That
tough
Wouldn't
question.
Die is a great episode.
Mhm.
Plan 9 from Outer Space is a great episode we did. Really fun. House on Haunted Hill. That was, we threw everything but the kitchen sink.
Yes,
and,
we did.
Dude was renting an old, what, it was built in the 1880s.
1882.
Yeah, really old house in South Beach. He moved
Oh, wow,
since.
nice.
We were filming, like a lot of our episodes were filmed in the cellar.
Oh,
And it was just made to order.
Yeah.
You know,
It
was
looked
just,
like a
Ambiance in
crib.
those situations is everything. It
Oh, yeah,
really is.
yeah. We're in another cellar now. We kind of like hop cellar. We went from the Princess Theater to the cellar in his house, to the cellar in his ex-mother-in-law's house, and so it's we're cellar hopping.
We're cellar hopping. Yes.
Yeah, we got a skit show coming out, and a lot of the original is just going to be around the house stuff and then we want to do the same thing, go on location, because I just think that adds that little special
Oh, yeah.
something.
It
that-
does. It does.
Well, Roger Corman and any great B-movie director, they make use of. I mean, you can film some great scenes just like at the front of the drugstore and like in some like.
They're so
bit of
inspirational
woods
for
or-
using what you've got and
Yeah.
finding solutions
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Ed Wood,
Ed
master of that.
Wood, yeah,
Master of that.
to be able to put things together on nothing. That,
Yeah.
And
He shot it
looking
on the
back for
slide too
genius.
because he didn't have a permit.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
And-
sure there was a lot of that kind of stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ed Wood, and this is something that when I started doing this, I did not really care for Ed Wood movies.
Mhm.
I know that's sacrilege, but I have
That
developed.
shocks me, man.
I have developed a deep appreciation. There's layers to Ed Wood movies, and
I like a good whiskey. That first drink might kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
not be by the third or fourth. I was like, I really like
Yeah.
this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I'm drunk on Ed Wood.
Yeah.
Well, Ed Wood, man, it was like everybody, Plan 9 from Outer Space is voted the worst movie of all time with the Golden Turkey Awards, and it's not the worst movie of all time.
Right.
No.
It's like I could watch it 100 times. It is it's fun.
hmm
Is it constructionally well made? No.
Well, what I
Well,
go
that-
by as a fan is, did it entertain me or did it
Yes.
not entertain
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
If it entertained me, it seems like people today are so critical and everybody wants to be a critic and pick things apart. But
Yeah.
I prefer to focus on the things I like about something. I mean,
Yeah.
you can pick anything apart because nothing's going to be perfect. It's all made by imperfect people. But
And the themes in Plan 9 from Outer Space
Mhm.
are 20 years ahead of their time.
yeah,
Because what is coming out in science fiction horror at that time is you've got a monster that's been, a radiated animal or it's come
Right.
close. And the government shows the Blob is a perfect example. You see the giant military cargo plane that's hauling the Blob off to the polar ice cap, and the Army steps in and saves everybody.
yeah.
Ed Wood is like, man, you can't trust the Army.
Yeah.
It
reminds me more of like The Mist.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead.
It's
like
more
a
like
Stephen King.
it's more like The
you know,
Mist or the X-Files.
Yes.
Than it is like the Blob.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ed Wood also made it happen. It's like he didn't have any money. He had his friends that he put in Bela Lugosi. He met Bela Lugosi, and Bela Lugosi needed work. He got some money together to pay him and put him in it. He did. He made it happen. It's like,
convinced the Baptist church to pay for it.
He was independent, and it's like he made it.
And the people that may not know who that is, I hope you do. But I'm still going back. But like a Tom Savini, think of you get him for your movie, or somebody like that. Just in that time to get Bela Lugosi, I can imagine, and especially to do it like you said he did it.
Lugosi was hurting at the time. He was in the throes of his drug addiction,
right?
And he wasn't getting any work.
No.
He was, my understanding, he was pretty desperate, and Ed Wood. Some people think Ed Wood used him. Other people think Ed Wood helped him. And
the same thing with Rob Zombie and what is his name? Yeah. I've seen people say no, he loves him, blah blah, and all people say no, he was just using him and exploiting him. But I guess it's hard to say what's on somebody's heart when when they are them and they know. But
obviously
it's sad, and I hope
something
not.
about him.
Right.
Exactly.
I feel like it's more respect. Like it's.
Can you imagine?
It's my idol.
Can you imagine what it meant to Bela Lugosi? And I mean, he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What it must have meant to him, who had been, he was this great stage actor in Europe.
Right.
And then he was a great movie actor in the first 10 years of talkies.
Mm-hmm.
Played Dracula, the most iconic role, one of the most iconic roles to ever come out of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then he's been in obscurity for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy comes and puts him in movies again.
What
a way to go out. You got to go somehow.
Right.
That's the way to go
I wouldn't say he was in obscurity. He had made quite a few movies after Dracula, but he was kind of like on the downslope.
Was he on the Bruce Willis pathway of just kind of whatever comes along?
Yeah. That's and there wasn't much coming.
There's words in the script. I'm good.
Well, he made Glenn or Glinda.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really know how he felt about that. It's like, but it was work. And his movies with Ed Wood are really memorable. I don't think his son really cares much for those movies.
No.
I think he kind of felt like Ed Wood kind of exploited him. But
right.
Again, I think Ed Wood had some respect for him and had really cared about him. And that's my interpretation. And he was like a huge Lugosi fan. I couldn't imagine
the same thing with Rob Zombie. He was a huge. It's like one of the, or even outside of horror, Quentin Tarantino bringing back John Travolta. When he had sort of slipped off into.
On a side note, it always kind of makes me sad that Travolta, he was like the Pulp Fiction, and I don't think he really did much of note after that. It's
no.
But it was like right there. It's like
he had a string of movies that were probably borderline meh, and then went on into that
have you seen
Scientology movie, and then from there it was just
the latest movie he's in. Have you seen that?
I have.
The Fan, or the Fanatic, or the Fan.
Sounds fairly familiar.
It's like Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit directed it, and it's
Travolta's career has been like a seismograph.
Yeah.
Really. It's been like a seismograph because he had Welcome Back, Kotter, and Staying Alive. He had a chain of successes in the 70s, and then he disappears.
Urban Cowboy.
Yeah. Then he disappears, and then he comes back.
Pulp Fiction should have been the moment, he just
shot
off the moon, because that's one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah,
man.
I agree.
And then he just didn't. I don't know. That's my opinion. You guys may disagree with
me.
I don't disagree.
He started looking for roles that were more money and less substance. I think that happens too, because maybe he thought the same thing. Here I am, I'm popping off on this one, so now I can get more money. But,
well, that's the catch-22. You got to make a living, but I don't know.
Something else. You're a wrestling fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Something else that we've done. Are you familiar with El Santo?
Yes.
Okay. We love. We love
Viva El Santo.
Yeah, he's explain who that is.
El Santo was a luchador. Luchadors in Mexican culture are masked wrestlers. I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this, but they keep their masks on until they retire or
you
until
don't
somebody can
see
take
their faces.
You never see their faces
at all.
Yeah, you never see their faces, and they made some terrific movies in Mexico. They took American horror, from the Universal period, and they adapted it in the 50s and 60s when we weren't shooting Dracula movies and Frankenstein movies. They were turning them out in Mexico, and it was El Santo versus Frankenstein and Dracula. And Santo and the Blue Demon versus,
basically you get a wrestling match within the movie.
At least one.
The Aztec Mummy. Well, Mexican movies are fantastic. They're just everything but the kitchen sink. It's like cool cars, beautiful women.
And wrestlers are revered in Mexico in a different way than they are in America.
Well,
as literal superheroes.
Yes. Well, if I meet someone from Mexico and I talk to them, many times they know who El Santo, even kids.
Yeah,
they know El Santo.
They know who El Santo is.
He's like a cultural icon down there. But I mean, if you talk to someone from Guatemala or other countries, they don't know who he is. But El Santo, it was, I don't know, Catholicism's brought into these films, politics,
so many things,
music, horror, spies.
It's fun watching those movies years later from a kid, because as a kid you're just watching.
Oh, it's everything.
It's everything. You watch it as an adult, and you see all the other layers, complexities to it.
And that's where the character I play, Red Demon, comes from. He's complete with a very bad dubbed voice, kind of like this is Red Demon, because if you watch some of the El Santo movies, Kate Gordon Murray imported them in the '60s, and the dubbing is the dubbing is great.
Speaking of mask guys, one of the reasons I called you guys here tonight, of course, this is a special Friday the 13th episode.
Right.
And I got some fun facts I'm going to read off here in just a minute about Friday the 13th, and a couple little funnies that I wrote down today. See, the wife's laughing already. She's eager in anticipation. I can tell by the look on her face, and waiting on that. But are you guys a big fan of the Friday 13th? As a franchise? What would you say out of that is each individually your favorite out of the franchise?
I like the first one.
It's nothing like the original set.
The original is
I like Jason Kane Hodder. I mean, I like that. Yeah. He's kind of like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But I mean, Friday the 13th was just such a. I didn't get to see it when I was 10 years old when it came out, but it was such a just a present thing. It was like we read Fangoria magazine.
Yes.
And it's just Friday the 13th was just like it was just huge, and even though I didn't get to see it until later, we were all conscious of it. And so probably the first one, and then it's a Halloween ripoff, but
and that's one of the things I'll be talking about in a minute. Which they've admitted to.
I've got a story
by this point in time.
Yeah, I've got a story. It's like 82, 83, something like that, and me and my buddies, we camped all the time in the fall, and it's around Halloween. And there was 3 or 4 of us. We had kind of built a place up on the side of the mountain where we could camp that had cots in it and everything.
Right.
We had it. And so this one guy had a girlfriend, and he was taking her to the movies. It's the weekend before Halloween. And I don't remember whether it was one of the Halloween movies or one of the Friday the 13th movies. But, we sat around the campfire and waited on him to finish with his date. He showed up about 11 o'clock, and we ate and played, And I had this old army machete that I used to cut firewood with.
Mm-hmm.
And we let the fire die down and got in our cots about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm laying there just dead to the world. Dude. Yeah, what is it? Something wrong? No. Dude, is that machete outside? I said, yeah, it's by the fire pit. He said, would you do me a favor? I said, what? He said, "Would you come get it?"
Man.
Yeah, that's early '80s was really really rich times.
It was some rocking
Yeah,
hard.
it was
Yeah.
like it was pretty.
Rocking hard.
Those different ages, like when I was younger, I was into the masked Jason. I was into
Yeah.
the character Jason. But as I got older, I got into the story and realized it was a pretty damn good story.
It is. It is a good
The original
story.
movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
And the first, we'd already mentioned it was inspired by Halloween. They mentioned that they actually only had a graphic when the movie was greenlit. They had no script or financing.
Oh wow, that sounds like something we do.
Yeah, and so he got in contact with the writer. He's like, "I need you to write a horror movie." He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he was like, "Well, I need you to do something." He goes, "You know what? Just do Halloween," and that's where that.
Well,
came
Friday
up
the
with that.
13th is kind of like it's like the kind of story you would tell at summer camp.
It is.
There's
It's-
like there's this kid in this
it's perfectly on
It's
the
like-
nose all the way through.
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, my brother's name is Jason.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
The original name for this was not Friday the 13th. It was actually, and I believe this was claimed by, there's a lot of claims by different people who were on different parts of Friday the 13th, and some of it's to get a little shine on themselves. So
But I
take
think I've
everything I
heard
say
this
with
one
a
before.
grain of salt. But it was called The Long Night at Camp Blood.
Yeah.
Apparently was
Yeah.
the original title for it. Would
That's
be
a cool title.
That
It's
is
a
a
cool
cool
title, and
Friday the
it
13th.
still would have
is-
fit, but it's
Yeah.
it's Friday 13th so iconic. I
Oh
wonder
yeah.
if it would have made that much of a difference, or
I think
I mean,
it
it
would.
has in the culture of Friday the 13th, right? I mean, that's what really
I can
turned that
imagine
back
a
on
bunch of
its head.
sequels. Long
Yeah,
Night at
that's-
Camp Blood 13.
True.
I mean,
You recognize Friday the 13th. You recognize Halloween. You know what you're getting when you turn the movie on.
Right.
and Halloween and Friday the 13th also, like, there's been every holiday known to
Yes.
man that's like been exploited.
Yes.
Yeah. For
Groundhog Day, the movie.
I mean, basically,
Thanksgiving.
Happy Death Day is basically Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, so
Thanksgiving is my favorite.
yeah. I'm a big fan of the what is the Krampus movie we've been watching all the time here lately? There's a movie about Krampus, and then of course Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah, I love
Oh, yeah.
Silent Night Deadly.
We've been able to find two, and we've watched it like a million times, but it's so hard to find part one.
Yes, it is.
It really is. Do you know why that is? Why it's so hard to find?
It was very controversial when it was released.
I think Santa Claus had a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Was pending.
Yeah, that's yeah. So I
Rudolph
don't know.
got in on that.
We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see how that turns out.
It actually was. There were a lot of protests
Mm-hmm.
because no one had. It was the first horror movie that took advantage of Christmas, and there were a lot of protests. People were very upset. They pulled it early, if I'm not mistaken, from the theaters.
Yeah.
And it didn't make very much money.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, everybody else jumps on the bandwagon. You get Black Christmas and Silent Night, Deadly Night 2.
Right.
And, but yeah, I have one. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
a very good movie. It's well written.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Santa's sleigh. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. What was the recent? I guess it was more action than horror, but Violent Night. You know what it's called?
That's the
Is that the
recent one.
one with
Very recent.
David, the guy from Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but it's
Yeah, that looks
it was
pretty
surprisingly good. Like I watched
Was
it just because I there's gonna be Santa Claus and
David
Violence,
Harbour.
and,
David
yeah.
Harbour, yeah.
And I enjoy both of those things, so I thought you put them together. It's
Oh, yeah.
great. And I like the
Yeah.
Silent Night, Daily Nights, and I didn't know exactly where they're going to go with it. And
Yeah.
you're watching, it's like, oh, okay. They actually it's not just an excuse. It's not exploitive as much as or an excuse like some of the movies in the past. It really puts a good story together, like the original
Now,
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
I made a faux pas. Silent Night, Deadly Night was not the first horror movie to exploit Christmas.
Was that the Grinch?
No.
Okay.
Well, the Grinch, yeah,
It
probably.
was Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Oh.
Yeah,
See, I'm
yeah.
totally unfamiliar with that one. It doesn't.
Oh,
I'll have to.
Oh,
find
you
that.
wow,
must
yeah.
familiarize yourself with Winky.
I will have to find that. For
Winky!
sure.
No, no.
Winky will haunt your dreams.
Winky will haunt your dreams.
What do we think about the remake, the Friday the 13th remake that come out? How do we feel about
It
that?
was all right, but you can't. I don't know. I mean,
I felt like they were trying too hard to fill in plot holes that I didn't need filled in because I
can't.
sensed
I mean, I
my
thought
disbelief.
the guy that played Jason, his name escapes me.
Oh, I know you're talking about that big guy.
Derek Mears.
Yeah,
Derek
yeah.
Mears. He was good. He
Mhm.
was good. I thought it was good, but I mean, it's like you just can't recap it. It's like because it's only going to be a remake. You can't beat.
You
So do you
can't
think
go
the
back
better
to
way to go is a
1970.
Blumhouse like they did with Halloween and maybe start back, I don't know, part 2, part 3, whatever, and remake that one and go forward again, sort of like Halloween did? Would it be better to do that?
I
Because
don't know.
I almost feel like they tried to capture the whole series in one movie too, and I thought
Yeah.
that was too much. Like you needed to give some room, and I mean I know nothing else happened, but
Yeah,
Who knew that was
possibly
gonna
so. Yeah.
but it could have.
I have, you know, I feel like there's some things that shouldn't be remade.
Right.
You can't.
Hollywood is remake crazy now.
You can't capture that original because it fits in a space and time,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and that's what makes Friday the 13th so. It's what makes Halloween so great.
The Exorcist.
The Exorcist,
I mean, it
so
coming
good.
out when it did. If it came out today, everybody'd be like, meh.
Yeah.
Meh.
But
But
when
back then, again, people running out of theaters throwing up.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
standing out and holding signs.
But
And,
we're kind of jaded now.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Mhm.
like seen everything, and movies are too available. It's like when we were kids, you know, you go to the theater, see Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Shock Theater comes
Yes.
on, or
Mhm.
Willy Wonka, comes on, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory comes on, was it Thanksgiving that used to come on?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, it's like, okay, you've got this one window, this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
It's electric. It's happening. It's now. It's, and
The
it's like,
anticipation.
and it may
feels
never
for
happen
it.
again. The
Yeah.
entire kid world shows up.
Mhm.
And it's like, but now it's like with streaming, and it's cool to have streaming and
Yeah.
home video and all
Right.
that.
But it
it's
loses some of the special.
some of the magic,
Yeah.
the immediacy, and
There was something about in 1976 Saturday night at
Mhm.
10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. If you're near any major city in the United States, you're going to have a local horror host
yeah,
on one of your stations
Right.
that comes on and they show these great movies that were in the Shock Theater package.
Mhm.
And having lived through that, you waited for that all week.
oh
Yeah.
And when you went to school Monday morning, if you were sick and missed it, or if you fell asleep and missed it, you had to listen to all your friends sit there in the cafeteria and talk about
it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because and what did Dingbat say? I don't know. I missed it.
And that is what I was thinking of, because Dingbat is that's what I was thinking, not Shock Theater, not Shock Master.
Shock Theater. That's what I thought. I didn't know whether you were thinking about something.
It was just blending probably multiple
Yeah,
thoughts.
yeah, and it
That was great.
but it
Have a
was
T-shirt.
yeah.
One of my
And
favorite T-shirts.
It was for us, for my family, because my daddy was as much of a horror nut and fantasy nut as I am. That was our family time.
Yeah,
Saturday night
Shock
at
Theater.
Shock Theater. Saturday night at 10 o'clock. That's what we did.
And look how well adjusted we all
That's
are.
right.
We actually got we got Dingbat on our show.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't think I told him that. Yeah, we
Yeah,
got
we-
Dingbat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, which is like we were just walking around going, oh, Dingbat. It's not the original Dingbat from the 60s and early 70s, but it is Dingbat,
Yeah.
from
Reconstituted.
from
and
the second Shock Theater.
From the second
Yeah.
Shock Theater, and he built Dingbat in consultation with Dan East, who was the original Dingbat.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
And that's
awesome.
Teddy Wittenbarger.
Teddy Whitbarger.
It's just so awesome too that something like you guys are available, because I literally am just now learning that there's this out there still, and I've always loved horror movies and been so nostalgic anyway for, all those top things, and to see that something's out there that can recapture that.
Let me tell you about a great movie that I think you're going to love. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen Spider Baby?
No.
Okay.
Sid Haig's
first movie.
Oh, okay.
And Lon Chaney Jr. is in this movie. And it's probably the first slasher flick.
Nice.
And it's what is 67?
I've often wondered that, what inspired or what set off that genre.
Well, and you might could argue Psycho did, but
Psycho,
it's definitely one of the first.
It's in the. To me, Psycho is a slasher flick.
Still psychological.
But it's psychological horror. It's high budget. It's Hitchcock. So there is
That's a good point.
There's a big difference between that and Spider Baby.
Right.
You know, or some of the, you know, what I like. I don't like the high budget slasher flicks. I like the low budget slasher.
Well, just like with Brain That Wouldn't Die, Spider Baby, you got to see it. It's like it's old dark house, cannibal family.
Yeah.
And it's like Sid Haig is just eating the scenery up.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's just.
He's so powerful on camera.
Classic
no matter what
movie,
he's doing.
yeah.
And it bridges the gap between the horror of the 30s
Directed
and
by
40s.
Jack Hill,
and what we grew up with, you know, coming
Still
out
looking at all those people that like him and Chaney Jr. together on films, and you're like,
yeah. Well, I met Sid Haig a few times at cons, and he's an amazing guy. And he talked about Lon Chaney. He said he was a huge Lon Chaney Jr. fan.
right.
And he talked about him, and he hung out with him. And he said he just followed him around the set, like, oh, you know. And it was like he's just like, I was in a movie with Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
And that was really cool hearing Sid Haig tell that story. You know?
What y'all think about horror movies today? We've been talking about a little bit different genres. It's like everything now has been broken down to the nitty gritty of what it is for genre. There's like as many genres for horror films within itself now as there are when I was growing up, just genres of film. Do you think all that's necessary to differentiate these things, or do you think we should just be pushing horror as a united thing? And at the end of the day, what's your favorite type of horror? Is it, or horror genre? Is it slasher? Is it psychological? Is it, or does it just depend on the movie, like it does for me?
I think for me, it depends on the movie, and I think you can get a little bit too hung up on genre. And to me, some of the best ones are the ones that you watch, and then you get a glass of vodka and you watch it again.
Yeah.
And then you go,
and it's different with
what the
vodka.
fuck was that?
There's some that are so good that you don't really, and to a certain point, the twist is you don't. They have you leading to believe it's a certain genre, and then they flip it on you. I watched a movie. Was it the Unforgiven, Significant Other? I forget what that was on. Yeah, where they were in the woods together, and that had a couple nice twists. It had you believing it was a certain type of genre movie, previews and everything else. And I was watching
genres is a cool thing. Tarantino does that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
If it's done well, sometimes it's kind of choppy to me, but
sometimes
when it's really
good
blended,
when it's done bad.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes that's the appeal.
Well, I think horror movies ought to be fun, and I think sometimes people just want to it's almost like a badge, like you categorize, and it's like you kind of wave a banner, like this is this, and we only like this. And
it's almost like sci-fi. You know, you got the Star Trek fans and the Star Wars fans, or something.
Why can't you like both?
I like both. Exactly. I'm always that
dude.
I was like, I want to bring everybody together. Like, I love all horror genres. It depends on what mood I'm in. Or
why can't Captain Kirk fight Darth Vader?
Right.
You know, it's like,
Darth Vader's a friend.
Everybody, bows down to William Shatner.
They're just afraid that Princess Leia would have fell in love.
Say they don't want Princess Leia pregnant.
They're pregnant. I'm little Captain Kirk and alien babies. But
I met William Shatner too.
Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Myers, those who don't know, and I'm sure most people do by now, his Halloween mask is the mask that was used to
William Shatner
put on the shape.
Yeah.
Originally, as he was called. That's fascinating as well. I wondered if they had not kind of pigeonholed. I know it was supposed to be an anthology at one time. There was supposed to be every Halloween movie. One was really popular, so they was like, okay, now we needed two. Three, they tried to depart from.
Yeah.
People went, batshit, but I love it. I love
Yeah, it's a
Halloween
great
3.
film.
I love
Halloween
the
3 is
song.
weird.
I still sing it's weird, but it's
a great film.
Yeah, but it's cool that they tried to do that, but in essence, it didn't work. So they came back and just kept making sequels, and he became the famous guy he is. But I still wonder what it would have been like if it was just the shape, and then had carried on, and maybe he had different characters he could have brought out. It always fascinates me to think what else could have been on his mind, because we could have had 20 more, or 4 or 5 more, like the Universal monsters could have been all created by him, and things like that. What is John Carpenter? What is your favorite John Carpenter movie? Speaking of him,
Oh,
Well, his first few
speaking of
movies,
remakes, they're talking about a Thing remake, by the way. That one is, I can't see it. I get
Why remake it?
Yeah, why
It's
don't
like,
you can't top it.
Hey, let's rewrite the Bible. Let's just.
I want to see what happens after the end. The end of the movie left me wanting to know more what happened next. You don't have to retell me that story.
See, that's something that just blows my mind. Why don't you just show kids the original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why do you got to remake it?
Right.
Can they not how could you outdo? And I love the 1951.
I was going to say, I like the
it's
51
cool too.
version too.
But how could you outdo John Carpenter's The Thing? It's
Yeah.
how could you do any better at all? I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
But to answer your question, my favorite, I love John Carpenter's early movies. Halloween, of course, and The Fog. I could watch The Fog.
Oh, I didn't even think about The Fog.
And The Thing is one of my favorites. That's my son's favorite horror movie. But The Fog, I don't know. You don't hear much about that film,
but it's good.
No, it's just a classic ghost story.
It's one that was big to me, but it doesn't seem like it was big outside of me. Yeah, but it's a chilling film.
And it's just got a mood to it. Adrienne Barbeau.
Yeah.
And it's all
Moment
late
of
at
silence
night.
for Adrienne Barbeau.
And
Moment of silence for Adrienne
Barbeau.
Barbeau.
She the jazzy radio late at night, it's just, you can't get any better than that little seaside town late at night.
Yeah.
I love The Fog, man. Yeah. That is just, they remade that at some point. I'll never watch it.
Right.
No, it ruins it, taints it.
Yeah. It was
it taints the sacredness.
What's the point?
Yeah. That's, Adrienne Barbeau is one of those, when you start
Adrienne Barbeau.
When you start talking about horror actors, generally speaking, Boris Karloff, Vincent Price, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., Sid Haig, is generally very male. Adrienne Barbeau.
Swamp Thing, The Fog.
Swamp Thing.
Escape from New York.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things growing up too. The Swamp Thing. That doesn't feel like
I love the comic book.
Yes, that doesn't get enough love. Nowadays. If there was, I know we don't like remakes, but let's say they brought you backed up the trucks, just semi trailers full of money. I was like, we want you to pick a movie that you didn't like the way it was done the first time. We want you to do a remake. We're gonna give you all this money to do it, so money's not gonna be
Titanic. I want Titanic to be remade with vampires.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Is that public domain yet? How many years after the stories tell us? How does that
84 years.
I don't know that that'll ever be public domain.
But horror movies, horror genre, is there anything that, even if maybe you didn't think it needed to be remade, is there something that you would remake, and like maybe you want to spice it up? Is there things you watch and you go like, it'd really be good if this happened or that happened in it?
Okay, then this is one of mine. White Zombie, one of the best flicks ever made, and I love the movie, but it is so early. If it had been made 6 months earlier, it would have been silent.
Right.
Okay. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of the acting in it that's stilted. Bela Lugosi's is not. But Madge Bellamy, you can tell that they're silent actors.
Yeah.
And I would like to see it remade. My only problem is, how do you get somebody to play Murder Legender?
Yeah.
You couldn't.
That's the problem to
Maybe
me
Johnny Depp.
with a lot of
Maybe,
remakes. Is that
yeah.
people, some of the
You
characters
can
like
see
Freddy
that.
Krueger, for example, Robert Englund is so iconic that
Oh yeah.
when I saw the remake of that and I saw the new Freddy, it just made me sick. Like I don't want your interpretation of what it is. I want him, or
Yes.
you need to find somebody that looks close enough like him that you can prosthetic him up or something, because nobody else is going to be Freddy to me.
No.
Well, one thing people like B movies and movies from, back then, they had largely unknown actors.
Yeah.
And it was like that gave it some fear because it's like almost like it could actually happen because you don't know who these actors are.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
each of them,
that's
whether it
one
was Michael Myers or Jason or him,
Yeah,
were
yeah,
so
yeah,
good
like
at just little
those
tiny
those are actual.
details.
They look like they were in their 20s, but they're
Yeah.
actually they could be high school kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And this could happen.
Yeah.
Nowadays, actors they're too pretty. They just seem like they're just you know
You
they're
can't
actors.
relate.
Yeah, they're actors.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's like the Friday the 13th remake. It's like everybody in there is too pretty and too, the women are too hot.
Yeah.
And they're just, it's kind of like, there's a disbelief that just kind of hangs over.
It doesn't need it because it's not. There are movies to where.
But I
you're
wanted
glad-
to believe women were that hot.
Well, you say there are those movies you watch and you're glad because that's the kind of just you want blood and boobs, you want the B&B, so it's nice that that's in there. But in some, it's just a distraction and just not necessary, and you got to know the difference to be entertaining, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You got to know the difference.
Everything has its place.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, back to your question.
Mhm.
Not because you could do any better. The Abominable Dr. Fives, they were going to remake that with Johnny Depp, or at least I heard they were, and they didn't do it. That I would have loved to have seen that, not because you could do any better than Vincent Price, only because it's Johnny Depp. And I would have loved to have seen what he did with that.
Yes.
And I think, it would have been a little different. Not better, but different.
It would have been interesting.
And
It
he's
would have
one
been
of,
interesting.
he's one of the only actors I know that can follow behind Vincent Price.
And he probably is one of the few actors who knows who Dr. Fives is.
Right.
I'm sure that he's a fan of that film,
And Fives is like 8 books.
Yeah.
And I would, they only made 2 movies,
Mhm.
2 books. I would love to see the whole thing made from beginning to end.
Quentin Tarantino, are you listening?
Yes.
If
Or Rob Zombie,
Yes.
right.
Do
you think he's going to have anything else going? It's weird. His movies are ones that when they come out, all you hear is how horrible they are, and then 10 years later, it's the best thing since sliced bread.
They're
Like,
fun.
It's the weirdest
Rob
thing.
Zombie,
They're fun. He's a horror fan, so
Yeah.
he
Oh, yeah.
takes journeys that
Yes.
well, if you'll notice, he brings in all these, like Sid Haig, for instance, he brings in all these
the
actors.
beautifully familiar tropes that
Yeah.
draw you in
Yeah.
and go, okay, this is
He
what
loves it.
this is
He
what I
loves
miss
it.
about horror movies.
What'd you think about the Monsters?
Okay, I am a
Loved
big I was a big fan of the original series,
Oh,
and I thought he captured the spirit of it
Yeah.
amazingly.
I loved it. I've seen it like
Look,
5
I'm getting
times.
chills
Yeah.
The
talking
owner,
about it because it was
I loved
so.
it. I loved it.
the owner of Tingler Television was in that movie.
Oh wow!
Really?
Okay.
Eulogy was in that movie.
Weird.
She was in the nightclub scene.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't
It's
know
cool.
that.
Learn something new every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
she's been really good to us.
She has been really good to us.
Yeah, I've seen some of her stuff online as
Yeah.
well and been sharing it.
Come on
for some
on
of
to
her
our
programs
station.
and stuff.
Hey, we're showing. Can we say what we're showing next?
Yeah.
We're showing Salem's Lot.
Yeah. We're going to
Oh,
be showing
nice.
Salem.
She got us Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
She got us some
The-
Hammer flicks.
Yeah.
I mean, like we never could have shown those.
We're going to
Her.
we're going to start producing the show for Salem's Lot next weekend, and it will be on
Something
Reactor
else that's going
9.
to be a remake coming up.
Yeah.
Not pretty soon,
you,
but
you could not do better than 1979 Salem's Lot. It's impossible.
mhm.
There's a line in that where the doctor and David Soul's character, David Mears, they're headed to the morgue. And the doctor asks David Mears a question. He says, I got a friend in San Francisco. He's
Mhm.
really turned on to the occult. You can't use that line in a modern movie,
yeah,
which means you can't remake it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that
Some
sounds
things won't.
silly.
We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Some things were just made for that time, and it wouldn't translate
That
the
sounds,
story itself,
yeah,
possibly.
that sounds silly, and it's not. I mean, I did intend it to be funny, but it you can't capture that feeling again.
One thing I love about Salem's Lot, the kid is a monster fan.
Yeah.
He's got, the Aurora models.
Yes.
Right.
Like posters of Frankenstein and the Wolfman on his wall.
Yes.
And they're just kind of like Stephen King, kind of,
Give
And
a
he's an
nod to-
outcast.
Yeah.
He's an outcast,
Yeah.
and his knowledge of monster movies saves his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
see kids, watching monster movies can actually save your life.
Yes.
we're an important public service.
Yeah.
We're
not horror hosts.
Monsters are real.
Yeah. We're not horror hosts. We're public servants.
That's right.
Public servants. Man, I appreciate y'all being on here. Before we wrap up, tell everybody again where they can find you and your most immediate things coming up real quick.
Okay, folks, you can find us on ITV Chattanooga, which is the River 104.9. That's our local station. That's on Saturday nights at 10 Central, 11 Eastern. Then you can find us at midnight Central, midnight Central. Okay, you can find us at midnight on Other Worlds TV.
Look, kids, just Google it. You got Google, okay? Just Google it.
Go to Tennessee Macabre on Facebook.com, on Instagram,
Not Macabre
on Twitter.
Or Macabre.
or Macabre.
I post every time we're going to have a show when
Okay.
it is. But you can catch us on Other Worlds TV on Saturday nights, ITV Chattanooga on Saturday nights for Roku. You can find us on Tingler Television Thursday night at 8 o'clock, every Thursday night.
So there's really no excuse not to watch you guys.
No excuse. If you got a computer or Roku,
We're kind of like a virus.
If you have a phone, if you have a TV.
phone, that's right. We're on Betamax TV on Roku. They archive our films. We archive our films on Vimeo, so you can find us on Vimeo. You can
Betamax,
find us.
speaking of nostalgic, there's a whole group of people right now that went,
Betamax, yeah.
What is Betamax?
Trust us, you'll love it.
It was a little different than VHS. What's
Yes.
VHS? Never mind.
You missed it.
I can't talk to you if you don't
No,
know.
we can't. If you know, you know, as the kids like to say.
You can find us on the Vortex about once a month, which is online. But like I say, go to, the easiest thing to do is go to TennesseeMacabre.com. There are links to all of our social media
There you go.
and most
One-stop
of the
shop.
channels we're on.
And do you have merch or anything out there for? Are we planning on
have-
possibly having some? If not, or
We have T-shirts available.
Mhm.
We're going to get some more T-shirts done. We're working on some more merch right now.
We hope to get action figures of ourselves one day.
That would be awesome. I will definitely be purchasing one of those.
Yeah, I want to see this physique in hard plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll use old Masters Universe He-Man bodies.
Yeah,
Put your head
put
on-
my head
put a
on it.
Stone
That's
Cold
right.
head on there.
Paint it white.
Paint it
Paint it
white.
white.
Yes.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining
Thank you
me.
for
I had a
having
great
us.
Thank you very
time.
much.
I love talking about horror. Hope to have you guys again back
Anytime.
real soon. And as I talked to you before, and they don't know a whole lot about it yet, but I do have a skit show myself in production that I'm working on with some really silly, zany things. And we'll get some clips out of that. I already have some great bloopers that are going to
Oh, cool.
come from it, because sometimes things just don't go like you want them to
Ain't
when
it
you're
the
doing
truth?
these things. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, but
We're very familiar.
Very familiar with that.
I have
Our filming is, I don't know, kind of like what would you say?
It's
An accident.
unique.
It's a train
Unique
wreck.
up on it.
Yeah, unique up on. We'll do a script and we don't memorize.
We
lines.
take the Marlon
Yeah.
Brando approach
Yeah.
to like memorizing a line. We have to like write them on the board. And,
Which somebody had told me about, which is a great idea. But for my scripts, they're more like, because I was a pro wrestler for so long, they're more written like wrestling promos. So I'm basically going to give you a guideline of where I want the story to go. Here's an idea of what I want said,
Yeah.
but what would you say as your character? Because that's what I want coming through, not what I would say, but how, with this story guiding
That's cool.
you, what would, because I want the most of that person to come out
That sounds very French.
What I
actually,
love
you know.
about his
Yeah.
when he scripts, inevitably I'll have a 2-paragraph line that has the name of every actor and producer and director in the film in it. And
Somehow I give him the long lines. I wonder why.
I'll be trying to get that out in one take, and he'll just be sitting there grinning at me.
I went the opposite approach. I was easy. My wife agreed to do. She already does so much. I couldn't do any of this without her. So thank you, babe. But she's actually going to appear as an actor in one of them, and she has one line several times. She's like, I can remember that. It's like she's pretty good at memorizing lines anyway. She's helped me with a lot of my pro wrestling promos back in the day.
And speaking of, my ex-wife Tracy TJ does all of our production. She couldn't be here this evening, and she doesn't like to
We
be
couldn't have a show without Tracy.
Yeah, she doesn't like to be on screen.
Mhm.
But she does. We kept trying. That was the biggest problem we had, was finding a videographer and a producer, or not a producer, an editor.
Mhm.
And she kept saying, "Well, I'll try." Had never touched any of the stuff before, and we gave it to her, and
She's
she
the greatest editor in
Yeah.
film history.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she was great.
That's a similar story with all this. It was one of those things to where part of it's just I'm a little control happy. So I so long in pro wrestling I wasn't able to tell the story I wanted to tell. This is a chance to tell stories I want to tell, and to kind of control things. So I've basically been self-teaching myself how to do videography, how to edit and things like that.
Well,
And it's
that's
just been
great.
the most fun, greatest thing ever, because what comes out, I know I'm not getting some editor's vision of my show. I'm getting the vision I want of my show, because I didn't realize before I started learning how to edit how much editing shaped the tone of a show and so many other things and small minor details that are.
We've been blessed because Tracy took over the production. She's great at editing. She's great at filming.
Mhm.
And like you said, that is so much of what we're doing.
Right.
She kind of sees it the way we see it.
And she sees it the way
Somebody
we
that
see
shares your vision is amazing.
it. Neil is one of the best writers in America.
Mm-hmm.
And he does our scripts. Neil has about 8 books out right now?
5 or 6.
5 or 6 books that you can find on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Weird Tales?
Yes.
Okay. Neil's books and his short stories are very much something you would find in a Weird Tales magazine.
That is awesome. And, well, I have a question for you as an author. So there's a saying that I really enjoy, and that's that no art is ever finished; it's only abandoned. Fascinates me, musicians knowing when to end a movie or a song, filmmakers knowing when to end a movie, writers knowing when to end a book. I'm good at script writing, but I can't write like short stories like that, because I can start out and write I can bring you on a journey so far, but then I can't. So how do you get from point A to point B? Like, what is your method?
I don't really have a method.
Or do you just straight write out you got to get it out?
Many times I have no clue how it's going to end. I just flow with it. The story flows. I just let the characters do what they do and turn them loose. Knowing what to cut out is just as important. Streamlining it, cutting the fat off.
Ernest Hemingway, the first draft of anything is shit. I may be paraphrasing.
Oh yeah, well, like you said, you're never really done. You just abandon it.
Yeah.
You're never done.
And you just got to give up your baby and go, okay, hope you like it.
Well, my novel, I wrote my novel, The Fearless Zombie Killers.
Oh my God.
I need to write. I've got another unpublished novel that I need to get out, but it took so much out of me. It's been several years, and I haven't written another novel yet, because I'm sure I edited the thing 30 or 40 or 50 times.
Creation and birthing these things.
It's like a 300-page novel,
yeah.
And I just read it and read it and read it and read it and cut and cut and cut, added a chapter, cut a chapter, added a chapter, and it's like it's a constant. So you're absolutely
always
right.
molding.
You're never done, and you're probably never going to be happy with it. You just got to get something you can like. Okay, yeah, I think I told the story I wanted to tell.
Right. Did I get to tell the overall?
Is it perfect? No, not by a long shot. But as long as somebody likes it,
I'm so intimidated by endings.
Don't be intimidated. Just let it flow. Just like, let it happen. And there's going to be some stories that dead end that you don't really finish, and there'll be others that you'll be totally surprised that you just ride it out like a wave, and it's all of a sudden, wow, I can't believe this son of a bitch did that.
Just creativity.
And there's your ending right there. Boom, it ended.
I can't sit down and go, I'm going to create. The muse, I have to tune in to what I call the muse, and it sends me the signals. And sometimes it only comes one of two ways. It's either dead cut off and I can't get nothing, or it's flowing at me so fast that I'm writing stuff, I'm telling her stuff, I'm typing, because it's all flooding in.
You just do it. You do it a little bit every day. You find, the time of day, late at night, early in the morning, coffee break, that coffee. If a little alcohol is what does it for you, get a little alcohol, like Hemingway or whoever.
Let me tell you what does these. I found these things. This is this new thing. It's called THCP. And it's got.
I would be scared to know what kind of book I would write if I.
Look, I would be too.
Because I write the shit that I write. Totally
I've had what they call Delta 8 gummies, which kind of make me tired and relax me, which is good because I'm kind of an anxious person. I'm ADHD, and I'm always so I need things to calm me down. But all it does is calm me down. It doesn't really medicate me in a way that I can still function. Like these are a lot more powerful. They're called haymakers. And they last, and they're not what I would think of when taking like a edible gummy like this. It doesn't put you to sleep. It really kind of makes you a little energetic, euphoric, talkative. So I really enjoy these. I got this at a place called Cigar Times. They're on Market Street in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You should go check them out. There's a guy there, Landon. Tell him we sent you. Real nice guy. From the choo-choo. Yeah, right there by the choo-choo and all that. It was a cigar. Yeah, Cigar Times. They have tobacco products, a selection of cigars, hookahs, hookah tobacco, cigarettes.
Nothing like a good cigar.
Incense, incense.
I'd love a
edible products.
Macanudo.
So this is new, and it's a little dabble do you for sure. If you're not experienced with edibles, I would not jump straight to this. He's very knowledgeable, so talk to Landon and he can help you find what you do need, and specifically what you're medicating for. Like if you're having trouble sleeping, you have insomnia, you can't eat. They have different various products that he's very knowledgeable about getting to you what you need, or if you just like I needed a little inspiration right then to help tune in that muse. A good way. Is there any routines or things you do like a sports player or something that do you have to have your car set a certain way when you ride? Do you handwrite? Do you have certain customs?
My main thing is will you sacrifice a chicken?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. You didn't hear that, Peter. No routine. I mean, you just
sponsored by KFC.
You just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
The main thing is, and because there's so many people that want to ride that don't.
Because they're going to never are.
The secret is you just sit down and do it. You read a lot, you ride a lot. You read a lot, you ride a lot. Me personally, there's really no specific time of day. I like to have coffee. I like music, but I find that I love music so much. When I throw on some vinyl, I tend to want to focus on the music rather than I can't really play music.
Yeah.
Maybe some jazz.
I was just saying, if I do, that's so funny you said that because we put it on
John Coltrane,
some
Miles Davis.
Nice.
One of the things that I like to write to, I found the spaghetti western theme music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's good music, but it's not so good that I put down what I'm doing and listen to it.
Right.
Yeah, music is good as long as it doesn't distract.
It's got to set the mood. That's the way I like a certain tone set before I sit down and write. But usually it's like I got to tell her because I don't remember anything. I'm horrible at putting stuff on the phone, and I don't know if you guys, but all my best ideas I just forget. But she's been helping me a lot. Keep those. That's I need to keep it on me. I'm sure she's told me that before as well. Probably she didn't listen, but I'm definitely gonna start doing that because it's weird. The more you create, the more creative you get, and the more
That's
it
right.
talks
The
to
idea
you.
is
So
It's a muscle.
yeah, it's a muscle.
Yeah, it
in
is. It's just like the more you use it, the more it work. The better it works, and it's like it just. I think you'll find the more you do it, it starts to flow.
Mhm.
And if you have a lot of ideas, you're probably only going to get a small percentage of them ever done.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just like they're just constantly. And
It's like with the skits. I want to write 100 skits, and out of that 100, I hope I get 3
just do one at
A
a time.
plus skits.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about making sure each of the 100 is perfect.
Well, we're only human.
We're only human.
Just take your best
Yeah,
idea.
Some
and
things
go
work,
with
some
it.
things don't.
Yeah.
I've started with a good idea before
Mhm.
and finished it out and looked at it and go, man, that's crap.
That happens
I don't
too.
even
Yeah.
think that's funny. You know?
That happens too.
I do, and I think it was an English teacher in high school or somebody that told me, to give your step away from your stuff for different amounts of time. She said a month. Just step away from your stuff when you think it's finished. Step away from 30 days and then go back and read it. And that always helps me because you
do.
catch things and you're like, oh, I know what I was trying to say, but I didn't quite say it right. Do you find that as well?
King. Well, Stephen King on writing. Stephen King's
Love
book
that.
on writing is great. You need
Sort of
definitely read
autobiographer,
that.
sort of how to write.
Like he says, is it 7 weeks? So like 7
Mhm.
weeks after you get done, like you write a novel,
Yeah.
stick it in a drawer, don't look at
Yeah.
it for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And kind of let it percolate. And I can vouch for, like, you let it sit for a while, you go back and you see things you didn't see before. And there's also things that pop up like, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, I want to add this. Here's another chapter. I want to take what he's doing here. And you learn to flesh it out.
Yeah.
Like when they go into this cigar store, for instance.
That's one of the fun things.
It's too brief. I need to flesh it out.
Right.
I mean, what's the guy behind the counter doing? What does it smell like in there? What's the guy on the street looking through the window? What's he thinking?
You're painting a picture with words.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, that's.
I'm doing an etch a sketch.
Yeah, I mean, hey, either way, they're entertaining, and that's the point. A lot of people don't do things too because they don't think they're going to be what some may consider elite. But there's so many levels to this.
Yes.
And if you have a love and a passion for it, I believe you should do it. Everybody was a beginner at one time or another.
Yeah.
Stephen King, as on writing, talks about some of those first stories he wrote and got turned down and told they were shit and everything along the way. So but everybody hates being a beginner, but to me, that's the fun part.
Well, I think Ernest Hemingway got one of his books. I don't know which one it was. I think it rejected like 80 times.
Yeah.
That's Hemingway.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did. I own. I
The reason
bought.
it's called a rough draft, right?
Yeah, that's the reason. I bought the Marion County Messenger, which is like it's an online newspaper.
Mhm.
And when I first bought it, I started publishing some short stories in there.
Yeah.
And I did one about Booger Holler.
Mhm.
Booger Holler is an actual place outside of Pigeon Forge that
Right.
I wound up staying in a cabin there
Mhm.
years ago by accident. And there's a reason it's called Booger Holler. It's way out. There was a series of YouTube videos about cave boogers in Kentucky. I'm trying to think. I can't think of the name of it. Hell, Kentucky or something. Hellier. And there's this tradition in the Appalachians. Some people call them goblins. Some people call them boogers. But it's and I got fascinated with that. And I wrote this short story about that, and I based it on Booger Holler because I thought, well, isn't that cool? There's that name, Booger Holler, and I've been there, And so I wrote this short story and I published it, and I boosted it on Facebook. 2 days in, I get this message. This guy goes, I grew up there. I said, you did? I said, I actually stayed there. I wasn't expecting anybody to recognize the name.
Right.
He said, yeah, I grew up there. And it's called Booger Holler because of the cave boogers.
Almost sounds like a place a pro wrestler would be from.
Yeah, it does. Doesn't it?
Hailing from Booger Hollow. The Goblin. That's a great story, though.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
on a side note, definitely read the Silver John stories by Manly Wade Wellman. Weird Tales, kind of pulp stories about the Appalachian.
Okay, I'll check those
Spooks
out.
in the Appalachian.
I'll check those
Speaking
out.
of books, just real quick, and then I'll wrap it up for us so I get you guys out of here. But what is your favorite horror book? I think before we go, I'm gonna go ahead and say mine. I think mine has to be Dracula because I read it at such an age to where it was a little more advanced than I was at the time reading, but it was so fascinating because I was a kid reading at that time. But even going back and reading it as an adult, it still had that effect on me. I don't know if it's nostalgia or it's just that good a book, but
Well, yeah, the time you read something or watch a film when you're a kid, it stays with you. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, or Pigeons from Hell, which is a long story by Robert E. Howard. Pigeons from Hell by Robert E. Howard is one of the scariest ghost stories ever in the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't ever go wrong there. That's just
so. I mean, I guess it's a three-way tie. I Am Legend is great.
Edgar Allan Poe is some of the most anxious-inducing literature I've ever read.
Yes. Yeah.
What about yours, sir?
Okay. Top of my list is Pigeons from Hell. Yeah. That's probably, in my opinion, that is the best horror short story.
Old dark house kind of tale based on African American folklore.
Oh, great.
And I guess Celtic too.
And Celtic
pigeons stealing the soul.
Yeah. Robert E. Howard's horror is incredible. He's famous for Conan the Barbarian. His horror is incredible.
Yeah, I didn't even know he had written.
Most people don't.
Pigeons from Hell. You need to read it.
I will have to.
I'll put him right up there with H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh yeah. So two kids stop over they're in the middle of nowhere in this old abandoned, rundown antebellum mansion.
Mm-hmm.
They spend the night in it, and some stuff happens.
Man.
Yeah, it's not to be missed.
Then, of course, I love the collected works of Lovecraft and Poe. I guess my favorite horror book is Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot, definitely.
That's for sure. Reading as a child, probably, if we're talking about books that scared me more than others, definitely that one, as well as Amityville. I read that when I was quite younger too.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
And the book was intense. Like I had no idea what I was getting into because I saw the movies first. Usually I do it in reverse. Usually I've read the book by the time the movie comes out. This was one of the first times that I went and read the book specifically thinking it was, going to be kind of silly like the movie. And it was not silly. It was quite haunting. It was quite haunting.
Yes. And on a different note, my grandmother had a first edition Dracula.
Oh, nice.
Really? Yeah. I don't know what happened. I suspect my uncle got hold of it and sold it. But it was a first edition Dracula.
I might try something like that. I can't even imagine.
And that's for how I became acquainted with the novel.
You actually read the book, the first edition?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Well, two more things before I let you go. These are going to be very punny.
Okay. We like punny.
Good. So, joke number one. I heard when Jason Voorhees tells a joke, it kills.
Y'all get to leave. See, y'all.
Yeah, she has put up with this 24/7. Check out our reels for more fun jokes like this. Why don't skeletons go to Friday the 13th movies? No body to go with.
Oh.
I think that might have been my favorite. Well, man, I appreciate y'all. That was so much fun. I hope to have you again real soon.
Thank you for watching.
Again, thank y'all for watching. And maybe if you'll wrap it up for us, just want to say to make sure you watch the Getting Baked with Gran as it comes out and the new yet to be named skit show. Thank y'all.
I love Getting Baked with Gran.
Yes, good.